What significant and alarming occurrence in the world is currently being overlooked by the majority of people? CWD or any prime disease in general. It's quite rare amongst people, but in deer populations, it's spreading like wildfire. Worst of all, prions can't be eliminated as easily as bacteria or viruses since they're misfolded proteins. Anything that comes into contact with them has to be incinerated. It hasn't jumped the species barrier into humans yet, but I feel it's only a matter of time before it happens. COM article stopping the latest outbreak for chronic wasting disease. Your wealth isn't yours. It's numbers on a screen. And if you owe, they take it instantly. But if it's due, they won't give it to you for 10 business days. Those at the top of the poverty level and bottom of the dying middle class, because they have the expenses, but not the savings to withstand this imbalance and prioritization of bank API-run cadences. Till doctor never put a deposit on anything you couldn't do without if you never saw that money ever again. Sugar is killing Americans. Millions of microplastic inside everyone. Modern lifestyle is killing us. Moon landing could be a hoax. Pesticide in every vegetable. Tech giants responsible for deaths and sexual exploitation of minors won't be held accountable. LGBTQ is big not because we're open-minded today. Chemicals are messing with our hormones to you. Military recruitment at an all-time low. Draft may be imminent. Tech is booming. But hold on a sec, robots taking our jobs. AI getting too smart. Don't freak out just yet. Sure, technology is changing at a crazy pace. But it's not all bad news. Think of all the cool stuff we can do, but yeah, we gotta be careful too. We don't want robots stealing everyone's lunch money or AI turning evil. Right, so how do we navigate this tech explosion without things going kablooey? Climate change. Yes, everyone knows about it, but it's such a slow burn crisis that it falls off the news cycle for whatever the latest attention-grabbing violence is. People get emotionally numb to it and don't keep up the energy to keep campaigning and protesting and ringing politicians or whatever. I'd say that given the mismatch between scale of problem and action, it definitely counts as overlooked. Until 70-80 years ago, a blink of an eye for the history of mankind, plastic was hardly used and it wasn't mass consumed until 40-50 years ago. And in some part of the world probably 20-30 years ago. However, we are already drowning in it. And we keep using more and more of it like there's no tomorrow. Plastic pollution is everywhere and getting worse by the year. How bad will be in 30-40 years? Most if not all wars. Ukraine, the one we talk about if any at all. Ethiopia, the one that we talk about as the example of the one we don't talk about. Yemen, the one we didn't talk about as the example of the one we don't talk about. Though recent developments may have swapped it with Ethiopia. The rest which usually aren't mentioned at all most of the time. I'd believe it's the amount of garbage, especially plastic, that the world is producing. Everyone actually knows about it. They know what to do. Don't do anything about it, and at least not properly, and overlook the issue. Microplastic has already been found in the fishes that we eat, and this could potentially lead to health issues in the future. In the UK, water companies have been releasing massive amounts of sewage into our rivers and oceans, resulting in the closure of several beaches. The situation is deeply troubling, and the water industry is grappling with a staggering £60 billion debt, raising concerns about the risk of a potential collapse. Unsustainable low birth rates in various countries is adaptable, is understandable, and is arguably not a bad thing. But in China, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and many parts of Europe, the low birth rates are so low that the population is essentially imploding. That the COVID-19 pandemic is still currently killing 2,000 Americans each week and disabling millions per year with long COVID. It's now the #1 cause of death in children and young people. There's a lot of propaganda to convince the public it's no longer a big issue. You laugh now, but it's really not going to be funny. And it starts being used for nefarious purposes, such as teaching people the exact details and methodology of how to create bombs and chemical weapons. Insect populations are sharply declining, experiencing an annual mass loss of approximately 2.5. The repercussions of this decline are already manifesting, posing a threat to the stability of the food chain. Everyone is walking around vapidly filibustering each other and trying to look like they're the best and most knowledgeable in everything, without ever learning or contributing. I heard a lot about bees disappearing a few years back. Not so much now, but in all honesty, people talk about it a lot. But I still think we are underselling global warming, thawing tundra permafrost. It's not just about climate change. It's waking up long dormant pathogens locked in the permafrost peaty soil layers. We're seeing a literal genocide. That obviously the country performing genocide is above the law and has the right to do anything it pleases. So far, all of these are things no one is overlooking. The best anyone can do is argue vociferously that they should be overlooked. The decline of empathy, consideration for others and honor, as per the rise of selfishness, self-importance and self-centering, the invasion of illegal immigrants that is entirely unsustainable on top of allowing unvetted criminal and gang members in, loss of biodiversity overlook, alarming occurrence with far-reaching consequences for ecosystems and human well-being. We are going to run out of food. The biodiversity crisis and climate change is worse than we thought just 1 year ago. The drug epidemic is as bad or worse than it has ever been. Just say no isn't going to work this time. Media filling people with fear and hatred for people who don't have the same opinions as them. The bird population is dwindling, probably due to the decline in insect numbers as well. Taco insecurity. Millions of people do not know where their next taco will come from. There's a war in Ukraine. Not that a single one of my friends has ever mentioned it. The trading of water futures. Cats in Poland contracting avian flu, with confirmed transmission among mammals. You know, things took a turn for the worse shortly after we reclassified Pluto. Antibiotics lose power because they are abused in industrial livestock farming. The war in Ukraine, there's so many wars, I guess it's just overshadowed